And welcome to the Council Committee of the Whole for October 29th, 2024. I will be chairing this meeting on behalf of Mayor Clayton as she is on Zoom. We're going to start. We don't have a motion to do the agenda? No? Okay. We're going to start with projected cost comparisons, and I will go to Chief Whiteway for this item.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. So considering budget, administration performed a brief analysis comparing projected RCMP contracted service costs to that expected with GPPS. It is anticipated through this analysis that GPPS will be less than RCMP contracted services had it remained in place. So the analysis provided in your agenda package demonstrates a projection of both services, with the RCMP being projected as if the contract were to continue, and then compared against the 2025 to 2028 operating budget for the Grande Prairie Police Service. In order to do this analysis, administration did use the multi-year plan as provided to the city by the RCMP annually. The multi-year plan forecasts multiple years of expected costs, and this was based on 100 officers. The projection of the Grande Prairie Police Service, although the Commission is still deciding, has been projected to have 110 officers by 2028. Additionally, under the RCMP contracted police services, the city is required to pay a share of divisional admin costs, items including cadet training, legal services, recruitment, and other costs are a significant portion of the city's expenses each year. These can range upwards of $5.5 million to $6 million annually. This is another line item that the city will see cost savings with a municipal police service. It is expected that GPPS will be the police of jurisdiction in 2026, with the full transition away from RCMP being finalized in 2028. And in 2028, the city is expecting to remain below what the RCMP budget would have otherwise been. So in conclusion, although the decision to transition from RCMP contracted policing services to a municipal police service was not a budgetary decision, but it will allow the city to provide modern, professional, and locally accountable police services that will enhance public safety at a lower cost. And the recommendation today is that Council Committee of the Whole receive this report for information. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chief Whiteway. I would look for questions or comments, looking first online to Mayor Clayton.
My apologies. I was just making sure that Councillor Bresty was let into the meeting. No comments at this point other than appreciate administration bringing forward this information in a timely fashion in regards to council leading into budget discussions. So no comments at this point. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Is there any other questions? Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Blackmore. And this is more of an educational piece for me. I believe the RCMP were negotiating a new contract for their members. I don't know if it's been settled or if it's still up in the air, but just kind of curious if any of that has been factored into your budget.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, any union settlements were captured in this analysis. So a 3.5% salary escalator was applied to RCMP costs for projections.
Okay, and is there any back pay that we are on the hook for?
Thank you through the chair. Not in terms of the latest settlement. We still do have our retroactive from their first agreement outstanding. That is due in March of 2025, and Council has put sufficient funds aside in reserves to cover that balance.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Just to build on that a little bit for myself, was the contract, the new RCMP contract, was it good till the end of 2027, which this reports to, or would it expire during the report, or?
Thank you through the chair. I'm not certain on the expiration date of the contract. The multi-year plan utilized did go up to 27-28 fiscal year, so that would be ending March 31st of 28.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other hands going up. I think we would like maybe a motion to accept this for information? Councillor Plott.
Happy to make that motion.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. I make a motion the committee receive this report for information.
That motion is in order, so I will call a question.
Bressie is in favor.
Councillor Bressie is in favor. And that motion does carry. We will move on to the second item on the agenda, which is police services budget and 2026-28 police services projection, and invite Chief Lacusta and Chair Wong to the presentation table. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore, Mayor Clayton, Council, and Administration. We're here today to present to you the policing services budget. I'm joined by Chief of Police of GPPS, Dwayne Lacusta, who will be here to help answer any questions that you may have. I think what I'll do is I'll go through each section and then pause for any questions, because it is a little bit of a lengthy report with different service areas that we're going to be discussing. So I'm going to start with just the budget summary. The role of the policing service is to utilize best practices, innovative approaches, community engagement, consultation, and partnerships to collaboratively address public safety and complex social concerns in Grande Prairie. Policing services budget encompasses the following service areas: Grande Prairie Police Commission, Grande Prairie Police Service, Enforcement Services, Mobile Outreach, Policing Operations Support, and RCMP Contracted Services. With oversight from the Grande Prairie Police Commission and under the leadership of the Chief of Police, the city is actively transitioning to a municipal police service. The Grande Prairie Police Service is expected to become the police of primary jurisdiction in 2026, which will enable the delivery of a more tailored approach to public safety. Mandated through the Alberta Police Act, the city is required to maintain adequate and effective policing services. Areas of the budget directly related to these services include the Grande Prairie Police Commission, Grande Prairie Police Service, Police Operations Support, and the RCMP Contracted Services. Through the Municipal Government Act and various municipal bylaws of the city, you're also legislated to provide other enforcement requirements, which are provided through municipal enforcement services and animal control. There are also complementary services intended to provide more reasonable, economic, and effective responses to areas of community concern. And those include traffic safety, community engagement and safety, and mobile outreach. The total net funds required for policing services is $34,609,448 for 2025, $36,395,772 for $772 for 2026, $35,530,553 for 2027, and $37,422,696 for 2028. So that's the overview. I'll go through each service area in detail now. So if you do want to follow along in your packages, it starts on page 3. The first service area is the Grande Prairie Police Commission. So in accordance with the Alberta Police Act, the Commission is the civilian policy-making and oversight body for the Grande Prairie Police Service. It includes 5 public members on the Commission, 2 City Council representatives, and 2 provincial appointees. The Commission is supported by their Executive Director. The Commission is responsible for ensuring that the police service operates in a manner that is accountable, transparent, and aligned with the needs and expectations of the community. Commission responsibilities include governance, policy, finance, and personnel personnel administration. So up to 2027, a majority of the funds required for the commission will be provided through the transition grant provided by the province. Net funds required for 2025 are only $58,750. These funds represent the honorariums council provided for in bylaw C-1455 when establishing the commission. So beyond 2025, the net funds increase as the commission expenses move from being funded by the transition grant to the tax-funded portion. So future amounts are $227,576 for 2026, $318,360 for 2027, and $312,997 for 2028. I'll pause here for any questions on the Police Commission budget.
There are no hands going up, so you can continue.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Next area is the police transition and police service, which is the tax-funded portion. Grande Prairie Police Service is building a modern, professional, and locally accountable police service that enhances public safety within the city. Policing services during the transition are delivered by the Grande Prairie RCMP, while with GPPS officers seconded over the next few years until the GPPS assumes command as the police of jurisdiction. The key action items for 2025 will be strategic planning, policy development, equipment acquisition, IT system design, police officer recruitment, and police officer training. Transition costs of $7,026,260 are being covered by the provincial grant, resulting in no net cost to the city in 2025. The police services tax-funded budget includes police officers that are on assignment to the RCMP detachment. The budget shows funds required to transition from the RCMP to the Grande Prairie Police Service for covering organizational development, procurement, personnel administration, technology, and engagement. Increasing tax-funded amounts are offset by a decrease in the RCMP contract amounts for the same periods. So the net funds required are $4,430,435 for 2025, $11,835,658 for 2026, $19,330,241 for 2027, and $23,318,222 for 2028. Are there any questions on the tax-funded portion for the Grande Prairie Police Service?
Would appear there are not.
Wasn't necessarily on the tax. I'm just on the transition costs for that part. It was. Can you just let me know when it's all done, where are we at with our reserve? Like, we allocated most of the funds, or is there funds left from that?
The reserve from the grant, is that? Yeah. So we're still on track with the grant. We did have some carryover from last fiscal that we worked through the GOA with to transfer into this fiscal year, but we still are on track with those grant funds. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you putting your hand up? Okay, then quit moving. Go ahead, Chair Wong.
The next area is Grande Prairie Enforcement Services, which provides municipal law enforcement in an amalgamated environment with the GPPS, RCMP, and mobile outreach. Grande Prairie Enforcement Services is responsible for enforcement of municipal bylaws, provisions of the Municipal Government Act, and various provincial statutes by authority of peace officer appointments. This mandate encompasses bylaw enforcement, community peace officer traffic enforcement, animal control, parking control, and vehicle for hire licensing. Enforcement Services places high importance on positive public engagement, education, and communication. Through collaboration with community partners, they strive to deliver an educational approach to bylaw enforcement and traffic safety whenever possible. So other service areas provided include Provincial Act enforcement, bicycle registrations, automated traffic enforcement, animal licensing, and the regional pound. Net funds required are $5,811,968 for 2025, $5,954,366 for 2026, $6,096,693 for 2027, and $6,232,928 for 2028. Any questions on that section?
Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Just a couple. Can you give me a kind of a high-level version of what the big decrease in expenditures was from 24 to 25? I'm sure it's some sort of realignment, but there was a fairly big drop in the budget.
24, 25, that's going to be a result of grant funding that we received, the federal grant for a program that we started with our youth engagement, which we received confirmation of that grant after last year's budget was approved.
Okay, and then my other one is, I don't see any revenue from enforcement services. Sorry, Councillor Thiessen, I'm keep hearing. Is there not revenue that we would receive through the provincial tickets and like the licensing and that sort of stuff? Or
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. You'll see that presented within the city's fiscal services budget. So we've left all of those revenues within the city's budget.
Okay, so will there be, I guess when we're looking at a budget or for the community, I'm a little bit confused because we're saying policing and then we have a revenue stream over there, but are they not tied together? Like we wouldn't have that revenue if we didn't have policing? I'm just confused how we would not tie those together, I guess.
Certainly through the chair. And that decision was brought forward and discussed with council at the time of the decision to transition. And at that time, it was decided by council to leave those dollars because they're associated with bylaws mostly that are a lot of bylaws that are council-driven bylaws as well. So at the time, it was decided to leave those revenues within the city's budget.
Okay, so if I can just follow up. So appreciate that. And I do remember that conversation now. I'm just, when we're communicating to the community, I just feel like this number is not the true policing number because we do have a revenue that offsets that. And I guess in the past we had the revenue as part of that. And unless I'm missing something, the revenue is always part of the overall safety component of the budget. And now it looks like they're separated. So I understand if we're doing that for accounting reasons. Just wondering when we go to the community are we saying it's a $35 million cost but no revenue? I guess that's where just need a little bit of clarification on that. Just how I appreciate we're trying to have two sets of books and we're trying to keep these separate, but it just for me doesn't feel like it's the true cost. I guess then it's maybe more of a comment than a question, but.
Well, I think when you have your budget book, it'll be a little more clear, right? Because you'll have both numbers then.
Yeah, and fair enough for that, but we're telling the community that this is the cost, but there is a revenue piece that's not being captured. So that's, for today's meeting, we're showing the community this is the cost, but there's not a revenue piece of this. So I appreciate they're separate, but I'm still a little bit confused on how we're messaging this to the community a little bit.
I'm going to go to Councillor Bressie with the next question.
Great. Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Yeah, and just speak to that topic. I get what Councillor Plot's saying in that it does create a little bit of confusion there. I think the benefit, though, is that this budget we're seeing today is what both the Commission and Chief Lacousse are going to be judged on, and they're not being judged on the revenue they're generating from giving out tickets, which means the community can have confidence that when Chief Lacousse is making an enforcement decision, or when the Commission's asking him to change enforcement policies, that truly is about public safety and quality of life in the city, not about the Commission or Chief Lacousse padding their own budget. And so you're right, it does make the numbers a little bit harder to see, but I think that con is, personally, I think that con's weighed by the benefit of making sure that there aren't any financial incentives in the police service to enforce laws, just true public safety and quality of life incentives.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bressie. I see that Councillor Bosch has her hand up, and so does Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. My question is, and maybe you said this already, but we based our numbers on 100 RCMP and potentially 110 GPPS. When is the date for the 110 accounted for? Is that in 2028, 2027? I'm just looking for the timeline as far as the budget numbers.
Thank you, Chair. 110 is based on 2028, our final numbers.
2028, okay.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Blackmore. Yeah, similar to Councillor Palat's question in regards to revenues, I think the reason why we went away from that was because of the perception that enforcement services was just generating money for us and finding ways, as some people say, to extort people for cash, for revenue for the city. So I don't mind that it's separated out, but my question for CFO is, in future reporting with the Police Commission, they are sort of tied together, the revenues that we generate through fines and otherwise. Is there a way that that maybe we could report that, side by side with this, maybe not on this spreadsheet, but just as an add-on, like an addendum, like, hey, we generated $4.2 million worth of court fine revenue last year based off of the work of our enforcement services and our GPPS.
Thank you, through the chair. I will note that each quarterly report that council receives does indicate what the variance in court fine revenues are. So that is highlighted in each quarterly variance report. We will collaborate with GPPS and find a way to report as well on those revenues going forward too.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mayor Clayton, you did have your hand up. It's not up now. Did you change your mind?
I changed my mind. Thank you.
Okay. We will move on. Chair Wong.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Moving on to mobile outreach. Mobile outreach is a diversion program focused on mitigating the impacts of street-level disorder, addictions, and public intoxication. It assists businesses and residents in handling their concerns related to street-engaged population, which may include trespassing, loitering, disturbances, public intoxication, needle debris, and encampments. The program is intended to provide immediate support for clients' basic needs and navigation through the local service systems, such as emergency shelters, healthcare, addictions, treatment, and housing. Services provided include community responses to residents and businesses, case management services, client support, and needle mitigation services. The net funds required for mobile outreach are $1,542,419 for 2025, $1,584,345 for 2026, $1,626,735 for 2027, and $1,668,117 for 2028.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. I'm curious how we get revenue from this department now and why we're capturing it here, if not on the other one, I guess. And I'm just curious what the revenue stream would be coming through the mobile outreach program.
That's through grants that we've been provided through the federal government.
And so those are guaranteed till the end of the 2028 cycle?
No, they actually end the end of 2026 on our revenue stream there for our youth workers and the needle mitigation.
Okay. And then my other question, and I guess we have commissioners on there, but I guess as council, I thought we were going to have a more robust conversation about mobile outreach. I guess for me, I'm going to be honest, I'm disappointed that we see it continue on for this many years and the amount that's continuing on. So I'm not sure if there's another touch point for council. If we say yes this the day, that's just what happens. But I guess for me, I have big concerns about mobile outreach and the impact of it, and just seeing it continues to grow. I was hoping for a different plan, to be honest. I wasn't hoping mobile outreach would just be something that we just continue to fund at that level forever. So, is there any other touch points, or once this happens, is this basically this is set in motion? That's kind of what will happen with the budget.
If I can make a comment on that, I don't disagree. We're doing a review of the program Mobile Outreach. I think we can do a much better job when it comes to community safety well-being. If we go back to the Police Amendment Act from 2022, there was a requirement for all police agencies to provide a detailed response to community safety well-being. So we're conducting that review now. We are in discussions with ways that we can enhance the level of service. So we actually have goals of actually reducing the needs for those services. Essentially, I would like to eliminate mobile outreach. We may never get there, but we should be identifying some KPIs so we can actually have an impact on the clientele that they're servicing. So we are conducting that review real time.
So appreciate hearing that, but I guess if this is a live document going to the community, we're kind of seeing the opposite with what I'm seeing here. It looks like it's an ascending amount over the next 5 years for what the expense is. So appreciate that if you're looking at changing it. I'm just curious if we're looking at making changes, why we'd put out a budget that looks like it's going the other direction.
We are early on to that review. As we build the service, we're looking at all areas that we have management over and looking at ways that we can improve the level of service to Grande Prairie. So this is a work in progress. So this is a status quo based on what we're seeing now, based on what we were funded in the past, and we are working towards a better model.
I think it would be fair to mention that the amount increases when the grant ends. It's pretty static until the end of that grant cycle. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. I just wanted to say that I appreciate Councillor Plott's comments. However, one piece currently in the community that I hear on a regular basis is the incredible work that Mobile Outreach does. It was never intended to replace enforcement or police service, and with Council's approval of an integrated approach, it still at this point continues to be an important part of the puzzle when it comes to creating public safety and supporting our community's needs in ongoing calls that aren't necessarily enforcement calls that require mental health support, calls that require a different skill set. And so I have complete confidence that Chief Lacusta in his evaluation and through leadership of the Police Commission that we'll find a balance of an integrated service that may or may not have a service like mobile outreach, but to date, it still serves a significant role in public safety in our community, and a removal of it would be premature, in my opinion, until we are confident that the police service that we are offering creates a safe community and achieves the goals that we're hoping it to. Thank you.
Move to Councillor Bosch.
Thank you. I'm in full agreement with Mayor Clayton on this. I think it's too early to consider different options when we're not even police jurisdiction yet. I look forward to seeing what the overview is on this subject, and I have no doubt that we'll come up with something even more effective. But for now, I have no issues with it staying in the budget, and I too hear a considerable amount of the public base that is happy with the service and wish they could do more as far as strength in the enforcement piece. But so far, this is working out well. And let's face it, many communities are using the same model at this point, but that's ever-changing.
Thank you, Councillor Bosch. We'll move on to Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Chair Blackmore. I also reiterate the point. This frees up our officers to focus on what they do best and not being able to deal with mental illness and different items that are happening on the street. I think it's important that we see this go ahead, and taking it away right now would not be a good thing. So let's see where this goes. I'm sure the model will be different. Listening to what Chief Lacusta is saying, I think it's important that we leave this in place because it's working.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Blackmore. No, I'm hearing the words around, and I have to agree with every member of council and the mayor that's spoken towards this policing service. With my work with John Howard Society, Alberta, and Canada, that was the discussion around the table. Is there a way to do more compassionate policing? Is there a way to get more people to utilize the drug court system rather than the justice system and face punitive consequences for, their inability to ditch their addictions and the life of crime that led through that. So our philosophy there was build communities, not jails. And I'd love to fill up our community with a bunch of rehabilitated people who went down the wrong path because of addictions versus filling up our jails and then trying to figure out what we're going to do with people after their lives have changed severely. So I look forward to the review. I trust Chief Lacusta to do a thorough job. He's got great experience in this type of world. I look forward to what comes back, but I wouldn't be asking to pull this or scrap this because, like Mayor Clayton and Councillor Boss said, there's too much support from our business community and from our residential community, anyone who's ever touched into the mobile outreach program and connected with that team to help ease off the situation that they're facing. So, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question in a bit of a different direction. The RCMP used the PAC team, which is a mental health nurse with an RCMP officer. It's a very effective team when it is working. Often it's not running because there's not enough people to staff it. I'm wondering, Chief Lacusta, if that is in your future, how are we going to make that effective all the time rather than sporadically?
Great question and point there, Chair. Thank you for that. It's definitely a part of our future. I see the value. I saw the origins of the PAC team in Edmonton with my years of service there. I know the value that it brings. You'll often hear me say that we don't need a badge and a gun responding to a lot of our calls for service. Many of those calls for service tend to deal with people who are unfortunately suffering complex needs such as mental health and addiction. So we are, as part of our review, we are having a number of conversations with different ministries, including mental health and addictions. And we're looking at not just sustaining the level of service, but how we can enhance it with a goal of actually reducing the need for it here in the city of Grande Prairie. So it's a complex problem. We can't solve this overnight, definitely, but we have to offer a different level of service and not as we strike that balance between intervention and enforcement. We got to make sure that we have the right resources. And we're fortunate here in Grande Prairie with a lot of the programs that have already been supported by council and the communities. We have a number of those agencies already here doing the work. So now what we're working towards with our review is quarterbacking and bring them all together so we can actually share that information, share that intelligence. So when we're dealing with a subject that unfortunately is suffering from complex needs, we understand what those complex needs and what everybody is doing around that person to support him on a journey to recovery there. So that's a part of our process here. But in the meantime, with the elimination of something like mobile outreach, then we're forced to send that police officer to those calls for service that we don't want to do. We need to have that compassionate approach.
Good, thank you. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. I just wanted to remind Councillor Plott, who had some questions, and I appreciate some of his questions. It's just a reminder that in the Public and Protective Services Committee outstanding items list, there is a report coming back from administration in Q4 2024, really having a deeper evaluation of mobile outreach, including statistics, number of calls over the last 12 months compared to the same previous time frame, as well as repeat residents that require support, missed calls, and calls that require additional enforcement services. So it may at that time provide you what you're looking for, but I just wanted to remind my colleagues that as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I see no other hands up, so please proceed, Chair Wong.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. I just wanted to add a couple of comments. I really appreciate the support for that program. Through our community engagement as a commission, we've heard that this is a much needed program at this time in the city because of the high levels of street engaged people that are there. It just creates a lot of social disorder, and they need someplace to call that doesn't necessarily bring someone with a gun and a badge. So I'll move on to police operations support. They are the municipal employees that work at the RCMP detachment. They provide operational and administrative support to frontline policing services that are essential in promoting public safety and security for our residents. These support services include crime data and statistics, court liaison duties, cell block guarding, data entry for the Canadian Police Information Centre, processing criminal record checks, call taking, and dispatching. So the net funds required for police operation support are $5,295,092 for 2025, $5,521,804 for 2026, $5,712,202 for 2027, and $5,890,432 for 2028. Are there any questions on the police operation support budget?
Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Chair Blackmore. One of the things that the general public doesn't realize is that these are city employees, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and that will this number change based on the change in the services, or do we see this support from our employees supporting the RCMP currently? And when that transitions to municipal police, will this change, or do you see any changes in the whole process?
Great question. First of all, I got to start by the incredible value that these employees bring. They are city employees that a lot of people don't realize. They are employees of the city of Grande Prairie, so I value their services. But as we restructure, redesign, build a new deployment model, part of that is a review of all services being provided here. So I can't land on a firm number at this time, but we are conducting the efficiency exercise to make sure that we're getting the appropriate value and impact from all our employees there. So it's not to suggest that people are losing jobs here, but it's just we got to make sure that we're providing the best services possible. So by way of an example, we've recently amalgamated our front desk staff from enforcement services to the RCMP detachments. They're essentially doing the same job, but now we're able to, one, force multiply, create some efficiencies, but cross-train our members to where they're providing more value, getting more value, providing a better level or a greater level of service with more opportunities, but we're also reducing some of our FTE counts and financial stressors or pressures that we may be facing there. So in the end, not a firm number, but I can say that we will likely see a reduction with those staffing numbers.
Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Blackmore. Similar to a question before, but I see revenues there. Is that grants as well?
No, the revenue in this case here, Councillor, is from some of our cell block. We receive revenue from the RCMP on the provincial contract to utilize our cell block. There's also some revenue from criminal record checks that the detachment currently conducts there. So again, those are embedded. I don't anticipate those going away. In fact, if anything, I would see something like the criminal record checks actually increasing over the years, just with some automation that we're going to be introducing.
Okay, thank you.
I see no other questions or hands up, so go ahead, Chair Wong.
Okay, on to RCMP contracted services. So as the police service of jurisdiction, the RCMP provide frontline services essential to public safety and security for our residents. Grande Prairie RCMP use a variety of policing strategies within the community, such as traffic enforcement, proactive patrols, 911 response, criminal investigations, drug enforcement, and facilitates access to addictions and mental health assistance. In addition, the use of public engagement allows the RCMP detachment to provide a visible presence with a focus on victim support and crime prevention. The RCMP are working with GPPS during the transition to a municipal police service. The RCMP will remain the police of jurisdiction until GPPS has progressed sufficiently in its transition plan and has met the necessary requirements to assume full jurisdiction. This is anticipated to occur in 2026. During the transition period, several GPPS personnel will be on assignment and work alongside the RCMP. Services and programs provided include general duty, forensic identification, general investigation, police dog, community engagement and diversity unit, and traffic services. So decreasing net funds are offset by the increase for the Grande Prairie Police Service during the transition. So the net funds required for RCMP during the period are $17,470,784 for 2025, $11,272,023 for 2026, $2,446,322 for 2027, and we're anticipating no dollars in our budget for 2028 for RCMP contracted services.
I don't see any hands going up. Oh, Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Blackmore. Not necessarily a question around budget, but more around Grande Prairie Police Service and the timelines on getting a police dog that just came up. So I was just kind of curious, where in a calendar or where in the process do you anticipate that we add one or more police dogs?
In our final deployment, we actually have 4 police dogs. We're just in conversations with the Edmonton Police Service, and we did have an opportunity to join their program. This is specialized training. The dogs come from particular breeders there, so it was just a little bit too early. I was hoping actually we would be picking up the first 2 canines here this fall, but we have to identify the right resource, the puppy handler, the person that can actually raise the pup and be our canine handler there. So we are currently looking for a person to assume that role. So in our discussions with Edmonton, I'm quite confident that we'll be able to get that program built up prior to becoming police of jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. I just wanted to thank Chief Lacusta and Chair Wong for this report. I think it's valuable information. As if you recall, Council made a decision to transition to a municipal police service for the fact of local oversight, local input, and providing local solutions. Although there was identified potential financial savings to be realized, it was a plan, and now we're seeing those numbers come together. It was never about providing a service that was inevitably going to be less expensive. It was about providing a better service overall for public safety. So as we head into budget in a few weeks here for Council, I think this is a good overview, high-level overview. It sort of sets the stage for what we forecast and see ahead, and I think it's important information. So I thank Chief Lacusta and Chair Wong for this and look forward to continued conversation. Thanks.
Go ahead, Chair Wong.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. We do have one more area to talk about, which is the capital part of the budget. So for 2025, the capital budget required is $2,123,000. Of that, $2,103,000 will come from the transition grant funds for development of an integrated dispatch and the procurement of 14 vehicles for the police service. The $20,000 tax portion is designated for the Grande Prairie Regional Pound renovations, which are split with the county. Moving forward, $700,700 required in 2026 will come from the transition grant for 10 police service vehicles in that year. $571,800 will come from the transition grant for an additional 8 police service vehicles in 2027. And that concludes our presentation of the policing services budget.
Thank you, Chair Wong. I'll look around council chambers for hands up. Shane, are you leaving? You're coming?
I'd like to ask a question.
You can ask a question, but you look like you were about to bolt.
No, clarify. Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Just as we're looking at the capital page here, as we're looking at an integrated model, this is a portion of the funding to action that item in the full budget book that we brought in a couple weeks. It is part of management's recommended budget to proceed with integrated dispatch. There are different funding components to make that a reality, and just wanted to highlight that for council here that this is a portion of that, the portion that would be directly allocated to the GPPS and the Commission's budget. There are other additional components that will be outlined in your budget book.
Here I thought we were getting a cheap deal. Is there any other questions? Seeing no other questions, do we need a motion to accept this for information? Someone want to?
I can do that.
Mike, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to move that we accept this report for information.
I think we need to refer it to budget. If you could.
I move that we refer this item to budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I see no hands up for questions, so I will call that motion. It's not coming up.
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
Councillor Blackmore in favor.
Bresty in favor.
Councillor Bresty's in favor. And that motion carries. There's no further business for this meeting, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much for your long, long morning.